There's a meme that everyone who plays Pokemon uses the same team. So, how true is it? Well, someone on Reddit did a survey to see what were the most used Pokemon in playthroughs. There was a different survey for each game. Respondents were asked to select all the Pokemon they had ever used in playthroughs of each game. The survey got 7,000 total responses, and they made this nice infographic to show all the results. But since that's too easy, we're gonna go with the raw spreadsheets. You can scroll all the way from the top, which is most used, all the way to the bottom, which is least used. So whatever your expectations are for these numbers, they're probably right. Obviously at the top are the starters, and then below them are some pretty popular Pokemon, and then below those are some less popular but still very cool Pokemon. And at the bottom are all the boring guys no one cares about. So what I'm gonna do is go through each game individually and point stuff out that seems neat to me. So the first game we're going with here is the first one, Kanto. That is red, blue, yellow, fire red, leaf green, but not Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, because this survey is from 2017. So first of all, the starters. Charizard is the most popular one by a lot. It has 60% usage, nearly 10% above the next starter, Blastoise, and then a bit below that is Venusaur. Charizard is very high up, but Blastoise and Venusaur have nothing to complain about here. They are both very popular as well. So something you may notice here, at number 3, is Pidgeot breaking up the starters. Now I'm a little bit surprised to see Pidgeot here. You know, it always seemed kind of boring to me. But Route 1 birds are generally pretty popular, and being the original Route 1 bird Pokemon gets you pretty far. So coming in right after the starters is Nidoking. You know, I thought I was pretty clever, evolving Nidorino into Nidoking as soon as I could. Obviously it's pretty overpowered to get a fully evolved Pokemon that isn't Butterfree before the second gym. But apparently everyone else had the same idea, because Nidoking's right here at number 5 with 43% usage. By the way, Nidoking, all the way up here. By comparison, Nidoqueen is down here. One of the things you can see kind of clearly with Kanto is which version of the game people prefer. And through these stats showing which are the most popular Pokemon, if we look at the version exclusives, you can get an idea from there which version people prefer. For example, Arcanine, up here at number 12, whereas its counterpart, Ninetales, is down here. Going back to Nidoking, it's up here, and Nidoqueen, down here. So from that we can see that people who play Kanto prefer red and fire red over blue and leaf green. And the last thing I want to point out here is that Aerodactyl is surprisingly popular to me. It's the 16th most popular Pokemon here. The reason that's surprising to me is because you get it at level 5 in fire red and leaf green, at a point where you have at least 5 badges. But I guess that just goes to show that people are willing to put up with a lot of grinding to get a cool Pokemon. So everything said there, we're moving on to Johto now, which is Gold, Silver, Crystal, or Gold, Soul, Silver. And this is the first game where we see a big disparity between the starters. So again we have the Fire starter, Typhlosion, up at the top by a lot. 65% of people use Typhlosion, which is a whole lot considering you're going to be using it in 1 out of every 3 playthroughs. And following it up is Feraligatr, but where's Meganium? Oh wait, it's down here at number 8? I thought starters were all supposed to be at the top. You know, Chikorita is infamous for having some very unfortunate matchups against the gyms in Johto. And it shows here. Nobody wants to pick this guy. So like in Kanto, we have a very popular Pokemon tucked between the starters here, and this time it's Ampharos. This one I can relate with. I use this guy all the time. It's got high special attack, not much else, but you know what, that's all it needs. Most people's biggest problem with Gen 2 is that there aren't enough Gen 2 Pokemon in it. The new Pokemon game comes out and you want to use the new Pokemon. So, that said, out of the top 10 Pokemon here, 9 of them are from Gen 2. So what that tells me is that you guys just aren't looking hard enough. To be fair, a lot of the Gen 2 Pokemon in Johto are hard to find. They're kinda tucked away, but not so hard to find that no one uses them. Moving on to Hoenn. The games included here are Ruby Sapphire Emerald and Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. So the first thing we can see is that this is the closest competition yet between the 3 starters. 58%, 57%, and 55%. All around, very good showing from the starters. Something that sticks out to me in this chart especially, there are some Pokemon in here that are very high considering how difficult they are to find. You've got Metagross, Salamence, Gardevoir. These are all Pokemon you're not gonna find on a blind playthrough. But the people surveyed for this information aren't blind. They're all people who are big enough fans of Pokemon to be on Reddit for it. So in other words, they do know what they're doing. They're not little Timmy soloing the game with Blaziken who doesn't know what Bulbapedia is. So moving on to Sinnoh. For this chart the games are Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, no Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, because that wasn't made yet. So immediately, the first thing that pops out here is that the top 2 Pokemon are not starters. Since you're guaranteed to get a starter, it takes something really popular to beat them out. And Staraptor and Luxray here, they have passed that condition. They're both early game Pokemon, and has some nice things about them that help them stand out. Now for the starters, Empoleon is the favorite, then Infernape, then Torterra, and they're pretty close in popularity just like Hoenn. I had gotten the impression that Infernape was the most popular, but apparently Steel types are just irresistible. It's very tight though, so there's not really much of a difference. Next up here is Lucario at number 6. This is another Pokemon that surprised me a little with how popular it is, because you get Riolu at level 1, at a point in the game when you already have 5 badges, but we saw it with Aerodactyl, and it's happened again with Lucario. If the Pokemon's cool enough, people will grind for as long as it takes to catch it up. So we've just gone through these top 6 Pokemon, and something looks familiar here. If you look more closely, all these top Pokemon matches the everyone uses the same team meme exactly. So apparently I was correct. None of us are original. And on the topic of memes related to Sinnoh, how about the no fire types meme? In the original Diamond and Pearl, if you wanted a fire Pokemon you had 2 options, either the starter Infernape or Rapidash. And people were pretty upset about that. It got fixed in Platinum, but the meme remains. So, that being said, if you guys love fire types so much and you absolutely have to have one on your team, then what is Rapidash doing down here? You complain about this game having no fire types and then you don't use the only one. What did the Fire Horse Pokemon do to you? So a fun game you can play with these stats is to scroll down to the bottom and see what's the least used Pokemon that you have used. In this game mine is Azumarill. My least used in any game is Tangela and Kanto. So were you the one person who used Unknown? Comment down below. So next up is Unova, Black and White 1. For the starters here we have a similar situation to Johto. Samurott and Serperior, both pretty popular, whereas Emboar is far below them. This time it has nothing to do with the gameplay of the starters, because Emboar's performance in this game is very good. Instead I say it's 2 things. 1, people really don't like Emboar's design, and 2, Emboar was the 3rd firefighting starter in a row, and by this point people are really tired of it. And now, it's time for the Pen is Confused show. On this episode, we have Zoroark. What's it doing up here when you can't even get it in this game? What did 24% of people know that I don't? Because as far as I know, you just can't get it in this game. So what happened here? Did the people who took the survey just confuse it with Black and White 2? So on an unrelated note, looking at all the Pokemon here reminds me, people give Black and White 1 a lot of credit for only letting you catch the new Gen 5 Pokemon. But I think that's a design choice that has aged badly. Now that we've had these guys around for a few generations, and the novelty has worn off, this is just a bad undersized regional Pokédex. There are 69 total options for Pokemon you can use in this game. That's even less than Kanto. But hey, that's all okay because they fixed everything in Black and White 2. There are a lot of Pokemon. So in this game, the number 1 Pokemon is Lucario. It's the only one other than Sinnoh, where the number 1 is not a starter. It's a cool Pokemon, it's pretty strong, and you can get it right away. Sign me up. The only difference between here and Sinnoh is that Lucario is only a little bit higher than the starters, whereas Staraptor was a lot higher. So because of the Pokédex situation, going from Black and White into Black and White 2, what normally happens is reversed. Normally, the new Pokemon from a generation are the most popular because people want to use the new Pokemon. But for Black and White 2 only, the new Pokemon are actually old Pokemon because they were all you could get in Black and White 1. So this time all the old Pokemon have an advantage. Like Zoroark in Black and White 1, I noticed some Pokemon that you can't get in Black and White 2 are here, like Archeops. What I'm thinking what happened is people just forgot which Black and White they used it in. And you know what, fair enough, it's the same region, same graphics. It could be easy to confuse Black and White 1 and 2. Anyway, this game is cool and I should play it more. So now moving on to a game I have no interest in replaying, X and Y. So the top of the chart in this game is real messy because there are 2 sets of starters. Greninja is the most popular Pokemon in the game, and is much higher than anything else. Greninja is the most popular Pokemon, according to the official poll. It's followed up by Talonflame, which is really interesting to me, because it beats out both fire starters. As we know, Route 1 birds, very popular. So if you take a Route 1 bird, and also add a fire typing instead of normal, that makes it very popular. Other than that, I haven't played this game enough to get anything interesting out of these numbers. So we're moving on to Alola. That's Sun and Moon, but not Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, because those didn't exist yet. I haven't replayed this game a lot, because it's Gen 7, so I don't really know much about it. Number 1 in this game, by a huge margin, is Decidueye. And Incineroar and Primarina are down here. So Decidueye is super popular, and Incineroar got into Smash Bros. So there are no number 1 winners in this game, but there is a number 1 loser starter, and that's Primarina. Press F for Primarina. Out of all the games, this is the one with the biggest streak of every top Pokemon being something new. You have to go all the way down to number 19 Snorlax before you get something old. So Sun and Moon players really like the Gen 7 Pokemon. So go check out this data for yourself, it's in the description. Tell me any cool things you notice in the comments, and subscribe for more narrated videos.